You probably should cover that hickey, Clark said, raising his coffee cup to his lips. Dani's eyes nearly popped out of her head as her hand flew to the left side of her neck. Gasping, Clark sucked up all the remaining air in the car. You whore. I was just messing with you. You fucked her? Clark asked, turning his entire body to face his partner. Dani gripped the steering wheel and stared straight ahead. Her silence spoke volumes. Dani, he gasped, mock disappointment heavy in his tone. I don't know how it happened. 1 minute, we were in her dining room talking and having wine, and the next. She trailed off, doing her best to keep the memories of the night before at bay. You went to her house? Well, there's your fucking problem, Clark said, throwing his hands in the air. Dani lowered her face into her hands. I know. Fuck. Why didn't I tell her that I was waiting till marriage or some shit? Dani asked rhetorically. Probably 'cause you're a whore, Clark said, shaking his head. Dani smacked his chest before turning her attention to the clock on the dash. Come on, we don't want to be late, she said with a huff. Cranking the car to life, the pair headed back to the station. In the parking lot, Dani covered up the hickey with makeup while Clark sat in the passenger's seat, silently judging her. It was Monday, and usually on Mondays Jackson got his crew excited for the work week by buying them coffee and donuts from Eddie's, a little ma-and-pa shop on the edge of the city. As Dani and her coworkers filled their cups, Jackson made his way over to his daughter. Mom and I missed you the other night. We thought you were coming over for dinner, he said as he reached for a powdered donut. Guilt chilled Dani's bones as the memories of what she'd been up to that night played out in her mind. I'm sorry. I was just so tired, she lied. Shit, this was becoming a habit and Dani wasn't a fan. She had to put an end to whatever was happening between her and Paula. But how? How could she call it quits and still remain close enough to the woman to gather the information she needed to bring down the Levine family? I get that. But could you call Mom? She really misses you, Jackson said. Well, fuck. Dani knew her father's intention wasn't to guilt her, but boy, did she feel shitty. Dani was a workaholic, and if it weren't for the fact that she worked with her dad, she'd probably see him just as little as she saw her mother. And the worst part of all, Dani lived only a few blocks away from her parents. When she first started working with her father, she'd often pick him up in the mornings, drop him off in the evening, and stay for dinner. But as time went on, life just got in the way. Since she spent so much time at work with her father, she felt justified in not going over for dinner all the time. Then girls' nights and drinking with coworkers started taking up more of her time. She tried inviting her parents to the crew's outing, but some of the other officers felt like they couldn't fully be themselves around Jackson, and it showed. Dani tried convincing them that Jackson was chill, but Jackson told her it was fine. Plus, he'd rather be at home with his wife than watching a bunch of kids get shit-faced anyway. Shit, I miss her too. I've been meaning to call her, Dani said. Jackson wrapped an arm around his daughter, hugging her close before kissing her on top of the head. I know, kiddo. I know what it was like to be a cop at your age, he said, patting her shoulder. Dani gave her father a quick squeeze before they huddled up with the rest of the gang and went over the reports from the night shift. After getting their assignments for the day, they all broke off. So what's the plan? Clark asked as Dani turned onto the road. Dani frowned. Were you not paying attention? She asked, looking over at Clark. Clark huffed and Dani rolled her eyes, finally catching on to what he was referring to. I think I might be in over my head here, Dani admitted. Clark's jaw fell slack. You, Daniel Jasmine Press, are in over your head? Clark asked mockingly. It was no secret that Dani wasn't one to ask for help until she had exhausted all of her other options. Now she wasn't stupid. In the case of emergencies, she always asked, but as someone who liked to earn the respect of her peers, she always asked for help as a last resort. This conversation stays between us, she said, pointing a stern finger at him. Dani, please. It's me you're talking to, he said, rolling his eyes. Dani sighed and looked out the window. Shaking her head, she trailed off. Her mind was such a mess. Since when was there such a gray zone between right and wrong? For the majority of Dani's life, she was a heavy rule follower. She colored within the lines, she followed every rule she was given, sometimes to a fault. But now, here she was literally sleeping with the enemy. How the hell was this happening? Are you in love? Clark asked. Dani jerked her head back like she'd been punched in the face. With Paula? Hell no. I don't even know her. And she's a criminal. She reminded him. You keep saying that, Clark said. 'Cause it's true, Dani said, growing slightly annoyed with the gleam in her partner's eye. "I know that," he said. There was a look in his eye that Dani didn't enjoy. "Clark, I'm not like those fucking dirtbags eating out the palm of Polly's hand," she said sternly. "Dani, I know you. I'm not suggesting anything like that. But this is complicated. Things get messy when feelings get involved," Clark said. Dani held up her hand, physically rejecting the suggestion that she had feelings for Paula. "Don't," she said simply. Holding up his hands, Clark dropped the subject, and the two went about their day without another word about Paula or whether or not Dani felt anything for the woman. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, hit that thumbs up and maybe share it with a friend or two. For more LGBT stories, visit the royalbluenetwork.lgbt today.